So imagine packing your entire life, literally everything you own, into the back of a Honda Civic.
Just completely uprooting everything.
Right. And you hit the highway simply because a painting of water at a local Greek restaurant told you to.
Which sounds entirely crazy.
It really does. I mean, most of us would never dream of making a major life choice based on a vague feeling or like a daily horoscope. We prefer our spreadsheets. We want 5-year trajectories and contingency plans.
Yeah, absolute chaos is terrifying for most people.
Exactly. But today we're taking a deep dive into Claire Kingsley's novel, Messy Perfect Love, and we are looking at why that kind of absolute chaos might actually be the ultimate psychological defense mechanism.
It's such a fascinating dynamic to look at because we're examining the extreme ends of human behavior here. You have the desperate need for unattached freedom on one side versus the suffocating requirement for rigid structure on the other.
Yeah, and to be clear, our mission today is not just to recap a romance novel. We are using the source material as a vehicle to deconstruct the actual psychology behind the opposites attract dynamic.
Right, because it's never just about quirky differences.
Exactly. We want to analyze what happens when the ultimate nomadic free spirit collides quite physically with a hyper-responsible, deeply rooted professional. Because true intimacy often requires us to dismantle the lifelong survival strategies we rely on.
Which is incredibly hard work.
It is. So what does this all mean? Let's unpack the mechanisms of structure versus spontaneity and see what's actually happening beneath the surface when those two worlds crash into each other. I want you, the listener, to think about where you fall on this spectrum as we go through this.
To truly grasp the gravity of this collision, we first need to establish the behavioral loops our two main subjects are trapped in. We have to look at their psychological architecture before they meet.
Let's start with Clover Fields. She is a quirky, chaotic wanderer, but she definitely comes by it honestly. She was raised in a cramped RV by these nomadic, vegan, hippie parents.
And their parenting style was essentially rooted in non-attachment.
Yeah, to an extreme degree. They literally abandoned her the day after she turned 18 to move to Thailand and join a spiritual group. They just vanished.
Which, fundamentally rewires a person's worldview. When your primary caregivers demonstrate that attachment is something you can just discard on a whim, you learn a specific survival mechanism.
You learn that staying in one place is dangerous.
Exactly. You learn to frame instability as freedom, because if you never attach to a place or a person, you can never be abandoned by them.
That makes perfect sense when you look at her current situation. We find her living in Walla Walla, Washington, and her daily life is just a masterclass in avoiding permanence.
Oh, she avoids everything.
Right. She lives next door to an older woman, Mrs. Berryshire, who accidentally bakes these terrible salt and sugar cookies, and Clover actively goes out of her way to avoid her, which feels like a micro-avoidance of any neighborly connection.
Definitely. It's keeping everyone at arm's length.
And professionally, she is a total disaster. She gets fired from her barista job after just a cascade of accidents. She drops mugs, she breaks a blender, and the final straw is spilling an iced blended green tea latte all over a customer's chest.
Yeah, that'll get you fired.
So she goes home, finds out her electricity has been shut off because she ignored all the past due notices. And instead of just calling the power company like a normal person, she reads a vague daily horoscope about riding a wave. And that's when she sees that painting at the Greek restaurant and decides to just drive to the coast.
Notice the complete lack of an internal locus of control there.
What do you mean?
Well, she outsources her life choices to horoscopes and restaurant decor. That is a highly active strategy to avoid accountability. If the universe makes the choice, she isn't responsible for the fallout.
Wow, okay. Now, compare that coping mechanism to our other subject, Dr. Cody Jacobsen. He is a highly competent, deeply rooted small-town doctor in Jetty Beach.
He is the exact opposite of Clover.
Completely. He is the absolute bedrock of his community. We see this immense competence right away when he treats a 5-year-old girl named Lily. She dislocated her elbow playing ninjas with a toy sword.
Right. A highly stressful situation for the parents.
But Cody just steps in, calmly pops the elbow back into place, distracts her with a bubblegum lollipop, and handles the whole thing with incredible gentleness.
He is a master of external order. He fixes broken things for a living. But that professional perfection serves as a massive psychological field.
Because his personal life is a mess.
It is a toxic wasteland. He is caught in this draining, loveless cycle with his ex-girlfriend, Jennifer. She resents his workaholism, they argue, break up, and then inevitably fall back into the exact same pattern.
Why does he stay in that loop?
Because managing a predictably broken relationship is far easier than confronting his own emotional isolation. Keeps him busy.
Okay, here's the analogy that comes to mind. Clover is substituting sheer momentum for actual direction. She is a pinball bouncing frantically around the machine.
I like that.
And Cody is the bumper. He is rigid, stationed in one single place, just bracing for impact and violently batting away anything that gets too close to his core. But I do have to push back on how society views someone like Clover.
Oh, sure. People tend to romanticize the nomad.
Right. People read this and think, oh, she's a free spirit. She's so liberated. But I have to ask, is she actually free? Her reliance on fate feels less like freedom and more like a prison built out of childhood trauma.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, extreme spontaneity and extreme workaholism are actually just two sides of the exact same avoidant coin.
Wait, really? The same coin?
Yes. Neither of them wants to pause long enough to deal with their own emptiness. Cody uses his medical practice to avoid his personal life. He can fix a physical dislocation, so he pours his energy into that rather than his emotional dislocations.
And Clover uses the concept of fate.
Exactly. If the universe mandates that she must move, she doesn't have to face the terrifying prospect of putting down roots and risking the abandonment she experienced with her parents.
But constant motion only works until you hit solid object. Which brings us to the actual physical collision. Clover arrives in Jetty Beach, walks into a local restaurant, and immediately spots Cody sitting at a table.
And she is completely mesmerized by him.
Specifically, his incredible dimples. She is so distracted that she walks blindly into a waiter carrying a tray of food, hits her head, and sustains a concussion.
And this is where their defense mechanisms instantly lock together.
How so?
Because Cody's professional programming immediately overrides any personal reaction. He leaps into action. He takes her straight to his nearby clinic and performs a highly thorough physical exam.
Right. He's checking her pupil dilation with an otoscope, listening to her heart rate with his stethoscope, testing her cognitive memory.
But during this clinical exam, his attraction is violently colliding with absolute panic.
Because through his questioning, he realizes this woman has no address, no job, and her grand plan for recovery was to sleep in the back of her Honda Civic.
For a man whose entire psychological framework relies on fixing crises and protecting vulnerable people, a concussed woman sleeping in a car triggers a massive response.
He practically orders her to stay at his house while he takes the couch. He prescribes a dark room and observation. But that clinical shield doesn't fool everyone.
No, his business partner sees right through it.
Yeah, James corners him at the clinic the very next day. He points out the massive ethical boundary Cody is blurring. He warns him about the gossip risks in a tight-knit small town and the professional danger of bringing a literal patient into his home.
Which is a very valid concern for a medical practice.
Definitely. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because you have to wonder, at what point does the Good Samaritan White Knight syndrome cross an ethical line?
That's the core tension.
Right. Is Cody subconsciously using his medical authority, giving her doctor's orders to stay, simply because he has no idea how to pursue a woman outside of his professional identity?
That is a crucial insight. Cody is incredibly comfortable in the role of caretaker because it's a highly controlled environment. If she's a patient, he holds all the power in the dynamic.
He dictates the terms.
Exactly. Actually, asking a woman on a date requires a level of vulnerability he isn't equipped for. But rescuing her, that requires authority. It gives him a socially acceptable way to engage with his attraction while remaining safely hidden behind his stethoscope.
I want you, the listener, to think about that in your own life. How often do you lean on your job title or your role as the designated fixer in your friend group to keep people from asking how you're actually doing?
It's a very common shield.
It really is. But because Cody uses this medical guise to bring her home, they are forced into this highly intimate domestic space. And that proximity rapidly flips the traditional power dynamics.
Because Clover doesn't stay the helpless patient for long.
No, she doesn't. Her gratitude immediately takes the form of domestic provision. Now, despite being raised vegan and literally never touching meat as a child, she developed this rebellious, self-taught talent for cooking as a teenager.
A rebellion through roasting meats. I love that.
It's great. And she uses this skill to make Cody an elaborate thank you feast. She makes lemon grilled chicken, roasted garlic couscous, and bacon-wrapped scallops. She essentially takes total command of his kitchen.
We really should look at the psychology behind acts of service here. Cooking a meal of that magnitude isn't just about saying thank you.
What is it about?
It's a subconscious tool to establish territory. When someone feels entirely out of their depth, providing a high-value skill is a way to prove they aren't just a charity case.
Oh, wow. And that territorial shift gets cemented during the invasion of the ex-girlfriend?
Yes, the Jennifer scene.
Toxic Jennifer uses an old spare key to break into Cody's house while he's at work, fully intending to snoop. But she walks in to find Clover, who is unapologetically eating peanut butter straight out of the jar with a spoon, wearing only her panties and one of Cody's white t-shirts.
Observe the transition happening right there. Clover goes from the vulnerable patient to the fierce, territorial protector of Cody's home.
It's incredible. Jennifer immediately attacks Cody's character, calling him a cold workaholic. And Clover just ruthlessly dismantles that argument. She defends his warmth, tells Jennifer she just wasn't the right partner for him, and ultimately forces her to twist the spare key off her ring and drop it on the floor before leaving.
It's a phenomenal shift in authority.
Think about when you've been sick and someone makes you soup.
Yeah.
It instantly fast-tracks intimacy, right? It bypasses all the small talk. Clover doing that and then defending his home completely rewrites their dynamic. And the irony is amazing. Jennifer spent years accusing Cody of being this unfeeling machine. Yet Clover, who has known him for maybe 2 days, instantly recognizes his value while literally wearing his clothes.
Because she sees the human being beneath the white coat. But mastering the private domestic sphere is only the first hurdle. To truly integrate into his life, Clover has to face a much larger external challenge.
His deep community roots.
Right, her greatest fear.
Which brings us to the rooftop family dinner. Cody takes her to his parents' house for a barbecue on their deck. His parents, Maureen and Ed, are there, along with his brothers, Ryan and Hunter, and Ryan's fiancée, Nicole.
A very classic, tight-knit family setting.
Yeah, the environment is warm, they are welcoming, the food is great, and Clover has a massive, paralyzing internal panic attack. And I have to pause here because I need you to explain this to me.
What's the disconnect?
I do not understand how someone who fearlessly packs up her life, travels across state lines completely alone, suddenly experiences a psychological breakdown over a salad bowl at a family barbecue. That feels entirely contradictory.
This raises an important question about how we define bravery versus avoidance. Why does a highly supportive environment trigger a fight-or-flight response?
Right. Why?
Because as Clover sits at that table, listening to a family share decades of history and inside jokes, she realizes she has absolutely no context for interpersonal permanence. She has never belonged anywhere.
So the panic is her realizing her own deficit.
It's the terror of the unfamiliar. People who are conditioned to transient lifestyles often self-sabotage the second they are faced with genuine acceptance. Permanence feels profoundly claustrophobic to her.
Because if you never stay, you can never be rejected.
Precisely. The unknown highway feels safe because it demands nothing of you emotionally. But sitting at a family dinner table, the risk of failing and being cast out becomes terrifyingly real.
And that anxiety becomes so overwhelming that it culminates physically. She fumbles a large platter and dumps warm chicken and sticky sauce all over her yellow sundress. She's so embarrassed by this perceived failure that she flees the table and begs Cody to take her home.
Dropping that platter was essentially a subconscious ejection seat. It gave her an immediate excuse to escape a situation that felt emotionally dangerous.
I want the listener to think about that. What situations make you feel out of your depth? Is it the chaotic unknown, or is it the pressure of being truly seen by others?
It's a very confronting question.
But what is truly revealing is how the small town responds to her mistake. A few days later, Clover's car breaks down on her way to finalize her new job at the Old Town Café.
And she's stranded.
Right. But who pulls up to rescue her? Cody's brother, Hunter, driving his green Toyota pickup. He got a quick text, dropped everything, and arrived to help. He even gets their other brother, Ryan, to help repair the engine.
It's instant community support.
Exactly. And while they're looking at the car, Hunter casually mentions that their mother, Maureen, invited Clover over for pie that evening. It proves that despite her messy exit from the dinner, the family just absorbed her chaos and accepted her anyway.
They offer support without conditions. And that realization strips away the bubbly, dismissive armor she constantly wears.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the humiliation of the family dinner breaks down Clover's nomadic defenses. At the same time, James's professional warning shatters Cody's rigid doctor persona. This mutual vulnerability leads to the explosive release of all that built-up tension.
Right. Cody goes to his bedroom to check on her after the disastrous dinner party.
She is humiliated, frantically trying to blot the sauce stain out of her dress. She apologizes for ruining the evening and finally voices her deepest insecurity that she is fundamentally different and the lack of a real family leaves her feeling broken.
And importantly, Cody does not try to fix her in a clinical sense. He validates her.
He tells her that her chaotic energy and her unpredictability are exactly the vital spark he craves in his overly structured life. And this leads to the physical culmination of their relationship.
The dynamic shifts completely.
It really does. Cody entirely drops the careful, gentlemanly Dr. J routine. He adopts a highly dominant, commanding persona in the bedroom. He takes complete control. And Clover enthusiastically embraces that surrender. So my question is this sudden shift into a commanding role a necessary psychological release valve for him?
Without a doubt. Consider the daily cognitive load he carries. He is constantly diagnosing illnesses, managing ethical boundaries, and suppressing his own emotional reactions.
He has to be perfect all day.
Exactly. In that moment with Clover, the burden of being careful is lifted. He can act on pure desire rather than medical protocol. And conversely, for Clover, surrendering control to someone she implicitly trusts is a profound relief.
She doesn't have to steer the ship for once.
Right. She spent her life desperately trying not to crash. True intimacy in this narrative is achieved precisely when both characters relinquish their defining traits.
The nomad commits to staying still, and the cautious professional gives in to unfiltered desire. And we see the proof of this transformation the very next morning. The reality of independence sets in for Clover, but she doesn't run.
She leans into it.
She does. She secures a quaint furnished cottage to rent, and she finalizes her employment with Natalie at the café. She's as actively putting down her own roots, independent of Cody.
She transitions from relying on fate to making a deliberate, terrifying choice to belong to a community.
And Cody transitions from hiding behind his medical license to engaging in a messy, deeply unpredictable relationship. Bringing our analysis full circle, the allure of the opposites attract trope isn't just about two people balancing each other out.
It's not just a messy person finding a neat person.
Exactly. It's about two individuals being brave enough to let a completely alien worldview challenge and ultimately dismantle their core survival strategies.
It demands looking at the person across from you and recognizing that the qualities that terrify you about them are exactly the tools you need for your own psychological growth.
It's a mirror held up to our own behaviors. So I invite you to examine your own life. Are you the bumper, rigidly stationed in one place, using your professional competence to bat away anything that requires true vulnerability?
Or are you the pinball?
Right. Constantly in motion, using spontaneity as a shield against the heavy work of actually connecting with people. Recognizing your own pattern is the first step toward breaking it.
The patterns are comfortable, but they're isolating. Breaking them is the only path to genuine connection.
But I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over as we wrap up this deep dive. The romance of spontaneity is undeniably thrilling when you are crashing into a new town and falling into the arms of a new lover.
The initial collision is intoxicating.
It really is. But what happens after the honeymoon phase fades? Once the nomadic free spirit signs a binding 12-month lease and the workaholic doctor returns to his daily grind of patient charts and morning rounds, does the free spirit lose the very wild spark that made them so attractive in the first place?
That's the real test of a relationship.
Or does the safety of a committed love transform that chaotic spark into a warmth that is actually sustainable for decades? The open highway is incredibly easy when you are just driving with no destination, but making the conscious decision to park the car, turn off the engine, and walk inside. Well, that is where the real work of a messy, perfect love actually begins.